Jack and Elizabeth's journey through 1923 has been wild, but trust us, nothing has shaken the universe quite like this. There's been a recent development, and you might end up realizing that everything you knew about these two was a complete lie. But how exactly did they set up such an insane twist? And how did none of us see it coming? Let's find out. Young love and big dreams. Jack Dutton, played by Darren Mann, is everything you'd expect from a young Dutton. Fearless, headstrong, and completely devoted to the Yellowstone Ranch. Elizabeth Strafford, played by Michelle Randolph, is his stunning, high-spirited fiancée from a neighboring ranching family. They're young, passionate, and ready to build a future together, one cattle drive at a time. They've got the whole wedding planned, their parents are on board, and for a brief moment, it actually seems like things might work out for them. But this is 1923, and if there's one thing we've learned from the Dutton family, it's that nothing ever goes smoothly. Just when Jack and Elizabeth are on the brink of their happily ever after, disaster strikes. The Duttons find themselves in the crosshairs of a brutal attack by Banner Creighton and his gang of vengeful sheep herders. What starts as just another day on the ranch turns into an all-out bloodbath, and in the blink of an eye, Jack's entire world is ripped apart. His father, John Dutton Sr., is gunned down in cold blood, and both he and Elizabeth are severely wounded. And let's just talk about Elizabeth for a second. This one barely makes it out alive. Her injuries are life-threatening, and suddenly the vibrant, confident young woman who was ready to take on ranch life is left questioning everything. Was she going to survive? And more importantly, could she really handle the brutal, unforgiving world of the Duttons? Love versus reality. As Elizabeth fought for her life, the cracks in her and Jack's relationship started to show. She thought she knew what she was signing up for: horses, open land, a beautiful home on Yellowstone. But after nearly dying in an ambush, she started to realize that maybe she had no idea what she was getting into. The West wasn't just scenic landscapes and cattle drives, it was ruthless, and survival came at a cost. Jack, on the other hand, was more determined than ever to hold on to Elizabeth, to the land, to his family's legacy. But as much as he loved her, he couldn't change the reality of their lives, and Elizabeth, unsurprisingly, started pulling away. Just when it seemed like Elizabeth might walk away from it all, boom! She found out she was pregnant, and suddenly, everything changed. The Duttons, still reeling from loss and violence, finally had something to celebrate. A new generation, a reason to keep fighting, a symbol of hope. For Elizabeth, this baby wasn't just a blessing. It was her chance to prove herself and to Jack that she could do this. She could handle ranch life and be part of this world. But if you've been paying attention, you know what's coming next. Tragedy strikes again, and this one's a heartbreaker. Just when Elizabeth and Jack are adjusting to the idea of becoming parents, the unthinkable happens. Elizabeth suffers a miscarriage, and it shatters her. The emotional toil is devastating. She retreats into herself, drowning in grief, unable to see a way forward. Jack, heartbroken in his own right, tries to be there for her, but their pain manifests in different ways. Instead of bringing them closer, the loss pushes them apart. Elizabeth starts questioning everything: her strength, her future, whether she even belongs in this life anymore. And just when you think she's been through enough, you realize that the universe isn't done testing her yet. The rabid wolf attack. If losing a baby wasn't traumatic enough, Elizabeth soon finds herself facing another life-threatening ordeal, this time in the form of a rabid wolf. Yeah, you read that right. Just as she's trying to pick up the pieces of her shattered life, she's attacked and has to undergo agonizing rabies vaccinations. This moment is symbolic. It's the rawest, most unforgiving version of nature coming straight for Elizabeth, forcing her to make a choice. Either she gives into the fear, the pain, the constant near-death experiences, or she fights back. With everything that happened, the ambush, the miscarriage, the wolf attack, Elizabeth found herself at a crossroads. She could leave and go back to Boston, to a world where her biggest worry wasn't whether she'll survive the week. The thought was tempting, especially after all she's lost. But then there was Jack and the Yellowstone and the life she dreamed of. It was the life she wanted before the West showed her just how cruel it could be. Jack needed her, the Duttons needed her, but did she have the strength to stay? In the end, despite everything, the pain, the loss, the trauma, Jack and Elizabeth have held on so far. But what about the others? Spencer and Alexandra, a love story against all odds. Spencer Dutton, a hardened World War I veteran, isn't your typical cowboy. Instead of returning home to Montana, he disappears into the African wilderness, trying to outrun his past as a soldier. His life revolves around hunting big game, facing off against nature's deadliest predators, and staying as far from human connection as possible. But fate has other plans. Enter Alexandra, a rebellious British aristocrat engaged to a dull, safe man she doesn't love. Desperate for adventure and real passion, she does the unthinkable. She ditches her fiancé and runs straight into Spencer's arms. It's reckless, it's romantic, and it's the beginning of a journey that neither of them could have predicted. Their romance is instant, intense, and completely irresistible. Before long, they're engaged, lost in a world of love and adventure. But just as quickly as happiness arrives, reality comes crashing in. Spencer receives a letter from his Aunt Cara detailing the chaos unraveling back home. The Duttons are in serious trouble, and if Spencer doesn't return, their legacy may be lost forever. Without hesitation, he and Alexandra begin their long, treacherous journey back to Montana. First stop is Mombasa. With no good options, Spencer secures passage on a rundown tugboat bound for the Suez Canal. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. Disaster strikes when the vessel collides with a ghost ship, flipping them into shark-infested waters. Now they're stranded, clinging to the overturned hull, battling exhaustion, fear, and the very real possibility that this might be the end. But just when it seems hopeless, they're rescued by the SS Lambridge, a much larger ship heading toward Marseille. It's on this ship that Spencer and Alexandra solidify their bond. Seeing their love and devotion, the captain marries them right there on the water, offering his wife's ring for the ceremony. It's a beautiful moment, but the calm doesn't last long. Trouble is waiting in the next port. When they board the HMS Majestic to continue their journey, they walk straight into a nightmare. Alexandra's ex-fiancé Arthur and his family are on the same ship. Arthur, humiliated and furious, is out for blood. The tension builds until it explodes into a public confrontation, ending in a full-on duel. Spencer wins easily, but his victory comes with a price. He's forcibly removed from the ship, leaving Alexandra behind. Separated, their journeys become even more brutal. Alexandra arrives in New York alone and faces the harsh realities of Ellis Island, grueling medical examinations, endless bureaucratic hurdles, and the constant fear of being turned away. Meanwhile, Spencer, now stranded, takes the first job he can find: hard labor on a merchant ship bound for America. It's grueling, dangerous, and filled with men who wouldn't hesitate to throw him overboard if it meant an easier voyage. Despite everything, their love remains unshaken. Spencer is determined to make it back to Alexandra, and she refuses to give up on him. But their journey is far from over, and the wilds of Montana may hold even greater challenges than anything they've faced so far. Tiona Rainwater, a fight for freedom. Tiona Rainwater's story in 1923 is a brutal, heart-wrenching journey that exposes one of history's darkest realities. Forced into a Catholic boarding school designed to erase her identity, Tiona is subjected to relentless abuse from the nuns and priests who see her culture as something to be corrected. At every turn, she is beaten, humiliated, and stripped of her heritage. But unlike many others, she doesn't just endure, she fights back. When Sister Mary's abuse goes too far, Tiona snaps and kills her in self-defense. With blood on her hands and nowhere to turn, she has no choice but to run. What follows is a desperate, treacherous escape across the unforgiving Montana landscape. Hope comes in the form of Hank Plenty Clouds, a crow shepherd who sees her not as a fugitive, but as a girl fighting for her life. Hank risks everything to help her, knowing full well that the authorities will come after him too. But their alliance is fragile, and the forces against them are relentless. Even as she escapes one danger, another lurks around the corner. The question remains, will she ever find true safety? Or is her battle just beginning? That's how things go in 1923. One moment, you think you can guess what happens next, but it doesn't take long for the plot to shift completely, leaving you on the edge of your seats. So how did you like this wild twist? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.